Today we're starting a little bit of a new topic, although some of you will have done this before and you might remember a little bit of it. And the topic is patterns and sequences. Now, just a refresher, I want you to think for a moment, what is a pattern? Like, where do you see patterns? So you might say, okay, I see patterns on carpets, on the floor. I see patterns in clothes. I see patterns in wallpaper, in patterns on plates. I see patterns all around us, we see patterns. And so if I type into Google here, patterns, and let's see what comes up. And we go to images. Okay, so when we look at this, we can clearly see, okay, these are all patterns. You would say, yeah, that's fair, that's a pattern. But why are they patterns? Have a think about that for a moment. What makes this a pattern? So keywords that I'm looking for from you are things like, repeated images, or like the images are repeating, or there is a certain order to things, or there is like a reoccurring, any of those words. If you use the word reoccurring or frequent, or like using the same image over and over. So for example, here, this pattern, here, all the squares, each of these cubes is the same as the one to the left and to the right and the one above it. You can see they're all the same cubes. And this pattern over here that looks like Cobblock, you can see that this one and this one and this one, they're all parallel to each other. They're all beside each other in the same angle. And then this one here is the same as this one here, and this one here, and this one here. And these ones up here are the same as the ones down here, and they're also the same as the one beside. And then some patterns are very intricate and some are very simple. You can see the pattern here. Let's have a look at this pattern. So we can see the colors, red, orange, yellow, light green, green, blue, purple, pink, I think. And they are repeated over and over and over and over and over. So repetition is a key word, reoccurring. This looks like somebody's tiles. You might see these tiles in kitchens and things like that. I know in my kitchen here, I can see a pattern on the wall that's very similar to this one here. So these are all different types of patterns. And in maths, you will get patterns involving pictures, and you will also get patterns involving numbers. So if we have a look at this picture here, we can see patterns may be sequenced in many ways, okay? They can be shapes and colors, color and rotation, and we'll get through all these. Let's have a look at the pattern here, okay? Here we have three different types of shapes, okay? This is the first shape, the second shape, the third shape. And look again, we have the first shape again, then the second, then the third, and again the first, the second, and the third. So you can see the pattern that's reoccurring. We have this shape, then this shape, then this shape, and then it starts all over again. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So if I had to guess, well, I could tell you that according to this pattern, the next shape in the sequence would be a triangle, wouldn't it? And the next shape would be a square. And then you can have patterns that involve shape and color. So you can see this one below is the same as above, the same shapes in the same patterns. It's still like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And I know that the next shape is going to be a square and then a triangle and so on. Or sorry, the next shape is going to be a triangle and a square and so on. But with this one here, they've included color into the pattern. So I can see that the triangles are always green and the squares are always blue. Okay, so here all the shapes are the same color, but here you can see the shapes have different colors, but the pattern remains the same. It keeps on occurring, it keeps going and going and going. Now the pattern, we're talking about a pattern, okay? People often get confused between patterns and sequences. Well, the pattern is this here. This is the pattern, okay? The pattern is the fact that these three shapes are repeating again and again and again, okay? But if I look at all of these shapes and I assume that this is just going to continue on and continue on and continue on and continue on. If I look at all of them, I would call this a sequence, okay? This is a sequence, but the pattern is what describes the sequence, okay? Don't worry, you won't get this straight away. That's totally fine. So here we have shape and color. Here we have color and rotation. You can pause it here for a second, see if you can figure out what's happening. Okay, you will have figured out that these circles, each time, what way are they going? They are going clockwise, aren't they? Because the blue here is in the bottom right, and then the next one it's in the bottom left, and then it's in the top left, and then it's in the top right, and then it's back again in the bottom right. So these circles are moving like a quarter turn clockwise. So they are going clockwise. They're going the way the hands of the clock go. And they're going a quarter turn each turn. And what's happening here? Well, this image is the same as this image, isn't it? Nothing's changed between these two. And then, but it has changed here. You can see that the purple dots are now up here, and the green dots are here, and this is here. So here they are also moving clockwise, but they are moving by like 2 quarters, whereas this was moving by a quarter. So it was going in quarters. This would move to here, and then it would move up again. Here they're moving like almost halfway around, because you can see that the purple went from down bottom right to top left, and the green went from bottom left to top right. This is a bit more of a complex pattern because it's moving twice as far as this one, and also here it doesn't change, here it doesn't change, and then it changes. It changes to this, and then that changes, that is the same as that, but then it changes again, back to what it was. So some patterns can be complicated and some can be simple. And sometimes they involve color and they involve shape, and then other times they involve numbers. So here we have a number by addition, okay? We have a arithmetic, which just means math sequence, a number sequence. So the sequence is here, okay, these numbers, and these dots mean that it goes on and on and on and on and on, okay? It means that it goes on forever. So we have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. Now, you can see here, what is the pattern? The pattern is every number is being increased by 2. So 2 is being added to 2, then it's being added to 4, and 2 is being added to 6, plus 2. And you can write it above here, plus 2, plus 2, plus 2, plus 2, plus 2, plus 2. So what would be the next one? If it's always plus 2, well, the next one would be 16, wouldn't it? And then the next one would be 18, and the next one would be 20, and the next one would be 22. Okay, so that is the rule, okay, the rule of the pattern. There's many different names. So you can say the rule, or it's just the pattern, or it's the term by term rule, and I'll explain that in a second. Here, it's a little bit more complex. They're not adding 2, they're multiplying by 2. So 2 multiplied by 2 is 4. 4 multiplied by 2 is 8. 8 multiplied by 2 is 16. 16 multiplied by 2 is 32. 32 multiplied by 2 is 64. Multiplied by 2, and then I'd need to get out my calculator here. But again, this would be multiplied by 2. And every term, every number is being multiplied by 2. Now, it could be -1, and it could be going down each time. So what I will show you here is if we had a number sequence, and I'm just going to make one up off the top of my head, okay? And the number sequence is going to be 1, 5, 9, 13, 17, dot, 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 dot. So this is a sequence, okay? It's a sequence of numbers. Now, what's the pattern? Can you pause the video now and figure out what I'm doing? What's the pattern here? Okay, hopefully you figured it out. So the pattern is I am adding 4 each time. 1 plus 4 is 5, 5 plus 4 is 9, 9 plus 4 is 13, 13 plus 4 is 17. And now that you know the pattern, you can tell me what's going to continue. What's going to be the next number? Well, it's plus 4 each time, so 17 plus 4 is 21. 21 plus 4 is 25. 25 plus 4 is 29, and so on and so on. Now, some key words that you need to know, okay? All of these numbers, they're called terms, okay? T-E-R-M-S, terms. All right, we know what a sequence is. This is a sequence here. And we know what a pattern is. The pattern is what changes the sequence. The pattern is what determines what is happening next, what's going to happen next. So we have pattern and we have sequence, and now we have terms. So a term is each part of the sequence. All right. Now, this number 1 would be the first term because it's first in the sequence. It's the very first number. It's the very first thing. This would be the second term. Okay. That would be the first, that would be the second, that would be the third, fourth, fifth, sixth. So that'd be the 6th term. 6th term. And that tells us about like positions. So if I said to you, find the 9th term in this sequence. Well, we know that this is the 6th, and this is the 7th, and this is the 8th. We don't know what the 9th is. But I want you to find out what is the 9th term. Okay. Well, we know that the pattern is plus 4, plus 4, plus 4, adding 4. And we know that the 8th term is 29. So if I add 4 to 29, I'll get 33. Oh, perfect. I found out what the 9th term was. Okay, these are just key terms, key words. So we've learned about patterns. We've learned about sequences. We've learned about terms and their order, okay, their position. So sometimes you might be given something like this. Now, this is a sequence, all right, of shapes, and there's a pattern here. You can pause it now and see if you can figure out what the pattern is. Okay, if you figured it out, you're adding 2 squares each time, aren't you? Each of these, we're adding 2 squares. Here we only have 1 square. Okay, I'll write this down below. Here we have 1 square. Here we have 3 squares. Here we have 5 squares. I can count them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And here we must have 7. Do we have 7? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we have 7 squares. So how many squares would we have in the next one? We would have 9, because the sequence, the pattern of the sequence is plus 2, plus 2, plus 2. We're adding 2 on each time. So if I asked you to draw the next one, you would use it just like this. So first thing you would do is you would copy this down, and excuse my terrible drawing. It's kind of hard to draw on the thing that I am using, the tablet that I'm using. It's hard to draw accurately. So, and then I would add one on top here. All right, so how many do I have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So where did I add them onto? I added these onto here. I added 2 more. You can see how these 2 are being added here, and then these 2 are being added here, and then these 2 are being added here, and all I did was add the extra 2 on up here, and that gave me that shape there. and the next one would be 11 squares, and the next one would be 13 squares, and so on. Okay, we're just getting started on this today. I've left you a worksheet to do, and it's to do with patterns, but it's to do with shapes, okay? Nothing to do with numbers just yet. So today I just want you to focus on doing that worksheet and getting used to figuring out patterns, okay? And what pattern will come next. So do that worksheet and then take a picture and send it to me by email.